That's great stuff. Okay, everybody, welcome to this morning's Bambuddha Boost. We're super lucky this morning to have Kerrie Phipps here, who's an international speaker and bestseller. She is an absolute expert when it comes to connecting, particularly with strangers, which we all get a little bit nervous, and we have a lot of self-talk going on a daily basis. And at this time where, you know, connection's so important, might be a good time to brush up on our skills. So I'm going to do what I do best and get out of the way, and I'm going to hand you over to Kerrie, and she's going to be giving us some top tips, advice and inspiration on true connection and speaking with strangers.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I didn't check in with you, but I'm sure you can pop back in anytime if I ask you their comments or questions, because I would love to have an interactive session. So thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday morning. It's really exciting to have connected with Anna only maybe a week or two ago. So super cool. I have a little gift for you to start off with. So one thing that we can start the days with is a little quote or something inspiring. So this little box I picked up from our local stationery store, Dubbo Printing Works, and they have little cards that we can pop open, and goodness knows what it will say, but I think it'll be good because it's the theme of shine. So popping open, and it says, "Be strong, go with your heart and believe in miracles, because anything can happen." Marlo Javi Dando. So I'm not sure if I've pronounced his name correctly, but that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you, as Anna has asked me to talk about connection, and I'm known for talking to strangers, but really the things that we learn from our conversations with strangers can then really enhance our listening skills and our connecting skills with our nearest and dearest and with those that we work with. Because I find people are often telling me, strangers that I meet will often tell me about the strangers that they meet and the insights they have. And just recently I was in Singapore and I spoke to a girl. I'd been in WeWork for a number of hours, and you know, I'd looked at this girl, you know, to smile, to connect, but she was just so focused. But at the end of the day, she was packing up her laptop, and so we got chatting. She asked what I was doing there, and so we talked about Do Talk to Strangers, which was a session I was doing there. And she said, "Oh, I find strangers are the best people to talk to, because you don't have to be nice to them, or they don't have to be nice to you. So when they are, it's real." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And she said, "Well, you know, your friends kind of have to be nice to you because you want to stay friends." And I was like, that's interesting. We have so many complexities in our relationships, but sometimes a connection with a stranger can just be pure joy, because there's no strings attached, there's no judgment, assumptions, and you can have an unlimited thinking kind of conversation with someone who will just go, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," rather than, "Oh, do you think you should be taking that on right now? You've got a lot going on." So sometimes, you know, friends, family, colleagues can have an opinion, and it's so important that we notice what's going on when we are having conversations. So whether it is with a stranger or whether it's with our nearest and dearest, our colleagues, people we lead, people who are leading us, what is the conversation in your head? So we're just going to have a little look at, this is just my good morning from Autumn in Dubbo. We're looking at the Do Talk to Strangers book, The Asking Model. So we're just going to look at awareness and one other aspect today. So here's a little resource card that I give people, or pop in the book. So awareness is about, what is the conversation in my head right now? So Anna, let's pop up that poll, which I think is just, we're going to have some fun with that. And Anna, can you just come off mute, because I can't see the poll there?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool.
I'm
Do you
back.
want to just, cool, thanks. Do you want to just read those questions out as people are thinking about them?
Yeah, so what is on your mind when people are talking to you? So you can have a bit of a multiple choice here.
Yeah.
What I need to work on next, what I will say in response, does my hair look okay? I forgot to send that email yesterday, or what was the question again?
Fantastic. Thanks, Anna. So, you know, sometimes we're listening to somebody and we're thinking about what would be a funny response, or how can I sound clever, or, you know, do I look okay? I should have worn the other suit. And so there can be this conversation going on in your head when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody else, or you're trying to listen to what they're saying. And I'm going to take you back to this pivotal moment that I had in 2004. I was in my first coach training, and it was 3 days intensive. I think this was on day 2, and we were actually practicing. So I was sitting with a man who was probably about 20 years older than me. And I'm just unpacking, all the pieces that make up his world, health and fitness, creativity, job, income, family life, house, all of those things. And he's just like doing a brain dump of everything. And he said, stretching. And I said, stretching. I laughed as I said it, because it was just unexpected. Sometimes somebody will say something and it's just a surprise, which is why it's humorous, because it's just a sudden connection. And I just went, stretching. And then he started justifying, when you get older, you need to be more flexible. And like, I get it now. But back then, just turned 30, not really thinking about stretching. So I was surprised. But I was stricken when I realized the impact that my lack of neutrality had, that my, judgment. And the coach trainer had been going through how we have judgments, assumptions, filters, agendas, just worldviews because of our experience. And to learn to not be surprised by anything that anyone says was a powerful lesson, because the other lesson that came with that was, from neuroscience, realizing that no two brains are remotely alike. And we use all of these tools to see how we are alike and how we're different. And we can box people into one of 4 major temperament modalities, or, you're one of these type of people, 4 or 9 or something. But no two brains are remotely alike. And the way that I see something is completely different to the way somebody else sees it. So when I had that moment of realization, I went, okay, I get it. I can't expect anyone else to see the world like me. And if somebody sees the world in a certain way, then I just want to go, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. To be open to that. And it was a powerful, powerful lesson that really served me when 10 years later, I was the parent of a teenager, and he came home from school and he said, Mum, the girls were saying this and this and this, and like things that I was not having those conversations at 12. And if I did, I would not have had that conversation with my mum or my dad. So I was kind of surprised that he's telling me about the conversation the girls were having, but I was also surprised that girls were having these conversations. And so the parent within me was just going, what? But I was able to just sit there and listen and say, and how did you respond to that? And then he spoke again. And I just thought, what a precious conversation. And how easily we can create a disconnect rather than a moment of deeper connection and an ongoing deepening connection by the way that we respond. So it's so important, coming back to awareness of the conversation in your head. What is going on in our mind when we are listening? Are we listening for what they're saying, for their heart behind it? Or are we listening through our own lens of, well, if I was saying that, it would be because blah, blah, blah. So self-awareness, super important. And I think, Annie, you did an amazing session last week on deep listening. And I think there might be more coming out on that. So that's a really exciting resource to tap into, because we could just talk about listening, but I went, yeah, we won't delve into that because you've been covering it. But while we're here in this time of isolation, I know some people are working at the office and some are working at home. And so there's a lot more time for being in someone else's space. And this is a good time to exercise our awareness of the conversation in our head and the conversation we're having with others, and a good chance to practice listening, especially if you have little people in your world, or maybe someone who's much older and maybe says the same thing or tells you the same story over and over. And we have this tendency to tune out. Like if a child is talking like over and over about their truck or their curly hair and something that's not important to you, if we can tune in and just go, wow, tell me more about that, when you really don't want to know more, but you're choosing to be a good listener. It can be a really powerful exercise for ourselves, but also for the person that we're listening to. It can be incredibly reassuring. It can really deepen that connection. And if you have a child going, look at me, look at me, look at me, they will kind of keep doing that until they either go away with hurt feelings or, get distracted by something else. But if we can just go, yes, that's incredible, or we just respond to them with full attention, we often find that then they go away happily and play because a need has been met, that need for connection. And so I think it's a valuable time to be talking about that. I've realized, Anna, that I don't have the time on here. So I'm hoping that I'm not going over time. So let's just flick through. Here we go. Here's my listening image. I saw this in Singapore on my way home about 6 weeks ago. And I just went, so beautiful. So you might not be listening quite that closely to anybody. You might have a bit more time, a bit less time to sit closely. Chat. Thank you, Anna. I've seen where we are. Great. I couldn't find it earlier. Okay. And I've lost my ability to slide. There we go. Different perspectives. So when we are connecting, and my husband threw this up last night, and I was like, beautiful sunset. Oh, it's aeroplanes. They're skydivers. And, when you go do something new, or you're doing something that takes so much focus, to be able to debrief with other people and hear their perspectives, then it sharpens your learning. And so I just love the opportunity to listen to people some who are doing similar things and some who are doing something completely differently, because it's all valuable. It's valuable listening practice, and also we get so many insights, and it unearths creativity. I could go on. Here's a beautiful man in our community, Riverbank Frank. He lives out in the Riverbank. You might see him quoted in the news from time to time, national news. He's sought after for his perspective. And I think how many people walk past him in the street and have no idea of the depth of compassion and knowledge. Like, he is such a reader, and is a really inspiring person to talk to. But we can just miss those moments when we make assumptions about people. And my arrow through is not working. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, oops, there we go. No, I don't know what's happening there. Okay, so let's move to the end of the asking model, which is gratitude, which is another powerful connector. So let's just be aware of, how are we expressing gratitude? We often say thank you for things, but if we can say thank you specifically, then it enriches the learning for ourselves and the other person, and deepens the connection. So we could say, I don't know if you guys have a nice cafe nearby, but we go for a long walk, we get our coffee, takeaway, and then walk home again. And we could just say thank you for our coffee, or we could say something specific like, thank you for the effort that you put in. I love that you always are smiling, or I love that you love your coffee. I love that you love your craft. But to acknowledge the person and to specifically say why we are grateful. So thank you to Anna for connecting and for giving the space last week when we connected, when we were introduced by our friend Mick. So I want to express gratitude to Anna, and this is an example, for being open to connecting. I know you've been really, really busy, but when you're open, then we discover a whole world of possibilities. So Anna has enriched my life just by connecting in the past week. Click on the slide, then arrow through. Okay, there we go. Thanks. Just took this on one of our walks the other day. As something that I sent it last night in gratitude to somebody. So how are we expressing gratitude? I'd love some comments in the chat box. What are you doing to express gratitude when maybe you can't just pop by someone's office with some flowers, or maybe you can send them, but little things. How can we express gratitude? I find these little cards really cool to give to people. I've written on the back of them for baristas and staff in different places, and I go back to the stores and I find them sitting there. So there's so many little ways that we can express gratitude with a with a text message and maybe adding a photo. So that photo of me hugging the tree, it was just so enormous. I had to go, Lyndon, take a photo, see how big this is. And yesterday when I was talking to someone in the Philippines, she was telling me how she loved Australian trees. And so I went, you know, here's this photo. Thanks so much for your time today. So the little things, but it's meaningful to the person that we can send it to. So yeah, any comments? How do we express gratitude in little ways? It can be words, it can be text, it can be, you know, maybe a Zoom call to connect with somebody. So just checking. Yeah, what are we going to do today to raise awareness of the conversation in our head and the conversations we have with others, and let go of those judgments, assumptions, agendas, and just be fully present with people? And how can we express gratitude to them? So Anna, do you want to pop back in? We got any questions? Or I know you've probably got a few questions. You've always got great questions for me.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that I love the structure of what you've got, because there's so many people. You think about going into a networking event and you stood in a networking event and you think, oh my God, I need to get a glass of wine down my neck as soon as possible so I can socially interact with everybody. And everybody knows that feeling. So I think practical tips, I mean, what advice would you give to the people that, I mean, even myself, I'm an introvert, extrovert. I do need that glass of wine, you know, to get through that moment. What advice would you give to people to deal with the kind of the chaos that goes on in themselves in that first couple of minutes of knowing they need to interact with lots of different people, or that they need to sit down and have a different conversation? What sort of talk would you give? Advice would you give on that?
Yeah, so taking that moment before you walk in, and maybe you're thinking, I don't know when I'm next going to get to a networking function. That's okay. You get them online as well. But just before you come in to the meeting or to the Zoom, to take a moment for self-awareness and go, what is the conversation in my head right now? Is it that I should have worn the other suit? Does my hair look okay? I need to send that email. And just choosing to go, okay, putting that to the side. I want to be, and choose the word that is like the focus that you want. So maybe you want to be energized, you want to be encouraging, you want to be inclusive and welcoming, but just choose like maybe one or two words. Maybe welcoming and inquisitive, because if we're interested in others, which is in the asking model also, then it takes the pressure off ourselves. But to notice the conversation in your head, let it go and be present, be listening. And I find that just takes the pressure off, because the key thing that really shifted this for me was being told that when you're nervous, you're focused on yourself. And again, that's not a judgment. It's just an observation. This is what happens when suddenly you're introduced to somebody, then your name is in the conversation and your brain is just like, everyone's looking at me. So to shift that focus and having that chosen focus before you go in is really helpful. Going, I'm going to be curious, you know, I want to be focused on others, then we don't have to worry about that voice in our head so much. And and Robin said asking questions is really powerful. I think this is Robin, Robin Harrison from Bathurst, who knows the asking model, and we've spent some time working through quality questions. And you know, a quality question can just be something as simple as like, what else? Or I'd love to hear more about that. And then it just takes the pressure off you, because you can just listen and keep tuning in. When you notice the conversation in your head goes to, what am I wearing? Back to the person. And so just take the pressure off yourself and know that other people have got a very busy brain also. You know, we hear what people say, but we don't hear all the words that they've discarded on the way to saying what they said. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This backstage chaos. Yeah.
And I think the power of a pause is quite an interesting thing as well, isn't it? Even though it feels like 2 hours in that moment that you're pausing, it gives. Have you got any thoughts around the use of pausing in those first interactions?
Well, it just gives yourself that moment to collect your thoughts, but also it's a gift to the other person also. And sometimes we're afraid of an awkward pause. For a while, I've been doing some social media with hashtag be okay with awkward, because we realize that awkwardness is something that we fear, and it's actually not so terrifying. It's just that moment, and when we step beyond it, then it's like, that was so worthwhile. I'm glad I went and had that conversation. I'm glad I asked that question. And you know what, just being honest with it and saying, I feel awkward, can I ask this question? And if you tell somebody that you feel a bit awkward, what do they want to do? They don't want to feel awkward, so they want to rescue you from it. So they're like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And you can just laugh about it. When you are able to laugh, then it just breaks the tension for everybody. Yeah. So Andrew Denton is an amazing pauser, but I think there's an appreciation for what somebody is sharing when you pause, because it feels like you're digesting what they're saying. So we might feel a bit nervous about pausing, but to the other person it can be quite a gift. Yeah.
Thanks, Kerrie. And it's a great opportunity to get some air in your lungs and calm down if you are feeling a bit wobbly as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I always like to think that just a good question like, what's your favourite sandwich, is a good opener.
Yeah.
I've used that a couple of times when things got awkward. I just thought make it a bit more awkward. But everybody loves those kinds of questions. So, thank you for your time today, Kerrie, and thank you for all your support.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I wanted to say, because we're connected, because of the global goals, and this was something else that, I was thinking we can send somebody a note, when we're talking about gratitude. So I wanted to say that because of our connection today, we'll plant, we'll give seeds to girls in Cambodia to give nutrition and income. So that's out in rural Cambodia through Free to Shine, through B1G1. Yeah, so I'm just delighted to be connecting with you today.
Thank you so much, Kerrie, and thank you for paying it forward and doing some more good in the world as a result of the boosts today. We're so lucky to have had the likes of Kerrie and so many different speakers donate their time and support everybody through this time, because these boosts are just the little thing we need to do each morning to make sure we put a bit of makeup on, or we wake up and we've got a good start to the day. And it's beautiful to see so many people coming back again and again and again. And I'd love you to tell us more about what topics you want to hear more of. Over the next week, we thought we could do with a little bit of laughter and a little bit of fun. So on Monday, we're actually going to do, and it'll be cameras on, so do your hair if you want to. Today is an ISO hairdo. It's called I Don't Care, and I'm just putting this on my head to hide chaos.
But it looks gorgeous.
But you do you. If you want to stay in your pajamas, stay in your pajamas. Nobody cares. The aim is we're all going to tune in and we're just going to have a massive belly laugh at 10 a.m. So we'd love you to join us. Tell everybody it's really, really, really good for you, believe it or not, a good laugh. And then on Tuesday, we've got a really inspirational guy called Dan Diamond, and he's actually calling in from the US, from the deep south. He's a real character, and he's literally been in all of these disaster areas in the world, or he's had an encounter with all sorts of disasters, and he's built this whole concept around mindset and how people deal with those kinds of things resiliently. Then we've got Gina on Wednesdays, the Urban Shaman. And this is a really good one for anybody that wants to take this time to get a little bit deeper with themselves and the connectivity to themselves. And then on Thursday, because I know we are and everybody else is frantically writing grants at the moment, we've got Janine Owen who's going to be joining us, and she's going to be giving us some tips on how to write business grants. And we know there's a few non-for-profits that are regularly tuning in, but you can also ask any questions there. So she also has a big list of grants and a space that you can become part of so you can learn more. So there's lots more going on. Tell us more what you want to hear about, and we'll keep doing this for as long as we need to, as long as this is going on, and probably thereafter. So be kind to yourselves today.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you with one challenge. Okay? So I want you to speak to a stranger this weekend, and I want you to push through the awkwardness, and I want you to ask them what sandwich they like, and I want you to also pick 3 people who have been significantly important to you over the past 6 months, and I want you to reach out and thank them with some genuine gratitude, because that will be a beautiful start to your weekend. For anyone that's tuning in tomorrow, we're not on, but we do have our cuddle groups that are running in the morning. If you'd like to learn more about that, reach out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again, Kerrie. And be
Thank you, Anna.
yourselves. Lots of love.
Absolutely. Thank you.